Herbert Warren Wind was one of the most stylish golf writers of the 20th century. He died about 20 years ago at the venerable age of 89, is my recollection. And he once asked Harvey Penick what he thought the most important clubs in the bag were. And Harvey Penick answered the driver, the putter, and the wedge. And apparently Herbert Warren Wind had asked Ben Hogan the same question and got the same answer. If we think of the modern trend, which is somewhat colourfully described as bomb and gouge, where they just keep coming up with more power in the driver and the ball, and then hit it wherever you want, and then just gouge it out of whatever hole you find yourself in and make your putt. Obviously, that's changing a little bit now because they realize it was a bit mono-dimensional. So, but it still gives you a flavor, and it's exactly the same series of clubs now that they were talking about many years ago. So hitting the driver into play, you get to do that about 14 times around, roughly. Now, particularly with the modern player being so powerful, they might not hit 14 drivers anymore, but for the rest of us, it's not impossible that we hit 14 around. And of course, that's more than most any other club in the bag, other than the putter. It's true generally, statistically, that the putter occupies about 40% of our strokes. Even if you categorize people in their handicaps, it's still the same 40%. And so it is by far the club that contributes the greatest number of strokes to your total score. And so any improvement you can make with your putter is going to really be significant. Then also with the driver being 14 shots, but also 14 shots that go the farthest and therefore have the greatest potential to cost you, are going to be, any improvement with the driver is going to be great. And then of course the wedge, people are carrying 4 or 5 wedges nowadays. Obviously the lofts and lengths have changed a little bit. When I was a boy, a pitching wedge was 52 degrees. Nowadays that's called a gap wedge, and a weak one at that. So the wedges are very important too, but the driver and the putter particularly are the ones I want to talk about. So practice your putting, and I would recommend that you practice straight 10-foot uphill putts, because that, if it's a straight one, you can just roll a few balls to check it. Then if you miss, it's on you. And your job is to get 10 out of 12, a significant number in a row. I've had clients who are able, after a bit of practice, to get 20 in a row. It means that you've got a very secure putting stroke. You're finding the middle of the club, you're aiming it well, and it's a wonderful training device. And then with the driver, I would suggest, though, that you don't always go with driver. Now, professionals don't because they don't need it. The rest of the world might be well served by going with a 3-wood. And here's the sort of mental formula I go through. If you hit 14 tee shots with your driver and 3 of them end up in the trees, they easily cost you 1, 2, 3 strokes each time that happens. If you're more consistent hitting your 3-wood, you might lose 10, 15 yards each time you do that, but the accumulated yardage, valuable yardage, is much longer with the 3-wood because you don't have all of those zigzags on the golf course. So experiment. I know it's less fun to go with a shorter club, but it's all about scoring, isn't it? So test it. 3-wood. There was a hole on the course where I did my apprenticeship where in the summer I used to hit 3 7-irons. It was a dogleg par 5, 3 7-irons. So it's how you get the score and what the score is, not necessarily what club you're hitting.